Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in this big, huge world. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I would like to thank the conference organizers for the Grace Incorporation and all the conference participants. My name is Professor Dr. Siham El-Kafafi from Auckland, New Zealand, Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. I hold several hats. So I'm a researcher, I'm a business consultant at Arrows Research Consultancy. I'm also an adult education specialist, is one of the most renowned Maori organizations and tertiary institutes here in New Zealand. I'm a trainer, a writer, an editor, a keynote speaker, and a thought leader. So today I would like to share with you my topic, which is building emotional resilience through social emotional learning, a path to well-being in education. So what I'm going to be talking today about is that I'm going to start by defining the emotional resilience in the context of education and its importance to foster it for students and educators. Then I am going to go through what is social emotional learning, what is its impact on emotional regulation and resilience, how to implement it in educational settings, and of course discuss some of the barriers and the solutions for the social emotional learning implementations. And then finally, I am going to provide you with few examples of the successful implementation of the social emotional learning from here in New Zealand and conclude. So as we all know, we are right now in this world that is rapidly changing. All the educational landscape is actually moving forward. And this is promoting emotional resilience, which is very critical for us, especially after COVID-19 pandemic and all this aftermath and the significance, this disturbance of our traditional learning environments. So that actually led to an increase in mental health challenges among both students and educators. So this new reality has forced the educational institutions to rethink their approach to fostering the well-being and social emotional learning. Accordingly, It emerged as a key strategy in building emotional resilience, especially in the context of that new normal that we are living in. So, in this presentation, I am going to explore how social emotional learning serves as a fundamental tool in fostering emotional resilience among both students and educators, particularly in the context of mental health and well-being in education. So, by integrating social emotional learning into our curricula, schools can create supportive learning environments that would enhance both our emotional well-being and academic outcomes. So also by promoting social emotional learning, it's not only a response for the mental health challenges that our students are facing in this new normal, but it's also a proactive measure for long-term resilience and success. So let us start first by the definition of emotional resilience in that context of education. So it refers to the ability to adapt and recover from stress, adversity, and challenges. So, in an educational setting, emotional resilience allows both the students and the educators to navigate the pressures of academic demands, the social dynamics, and the personal challenges without being overwhelmed. So, resilience here involves developing coping mechanisms emotional regulations, and the capacity to maintain a positive outlook despite setbacks. And we are going to see some of those coping mechanisms. So, why is it important to foster emotional resilience for both students and educators? Let's look at that. So, emotionally resilient students are better equipped to handle academic pressures, leading to improved performance and engagement in schools. We all know that the type of students that we have nowadays in our classroom are totally diverse. They are different. There are lots of them who are school leavers. Some of them are employees who want to upskill or reskill, and others who have been far away from education and want to come back for it. So we have different requirements and different needs for those students. So as you can see here, resilience acts as a proactive factor against mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. So emotional resilience supports the development of social skills and emotional intelligence. And it also vital in helping individuals to manage ongoing constraints and stresses of that post-pandemic, especially in the field of education. So let us now have a look at what is social emotional learning. It's actually emotionally resilient students helps them to be better equipped to handle academic pressures, as I mentioned, leading to improved performance and engagement in school. It also acts as a protective factor against mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. So, if we are going to look more specifically as the social emotional learning, we are going to look at it. This is a framework that is designed to help individuals, particularly the students, to develop essential skills. These skills are needed to recognize and manage their emotions, build healthy relationships, make responsible decisions, and navigate social environments efficiently. There are actually 5 key components that contribute to emotional resilience and holistic development. Let's go through them one by one. So, the first one of these key components is self-awareness. So, it's the ability to accurately recognize one's own emotions, thoughts, and values, and how they influence our behavior. So we need to start with self-awareness because it involves assessing our strengths and weaknesses. And that is very essential for our self-confidence and emotional regulation. After that point, we go to the second component, which is self-management. Once you know yourself, and you recognize and identify that, then you have the ability to regulate your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own behavior in different situations. Once this happens, we move to the third one, which is social awareness. So we start with ourselves and how to manage it, and then moving on our surroundings. This emphasizes that others also come from diverse backgrounds, diverse cultures. So we need to understand them in order to understand their social and ethical norms, to recognize how are we going to able to support them. So this social awareness enhances one's ability to navigate complex social situations, and also it fosters inclusivity. Then we move to the fourth component, which is relationship skills. It's the ability to establish and maintain healthy, rewarding relationships through effective communication, cooperation, negotiations, and conflict resolution. As you can hear, all those are wonderful required skills for us as educators and also for our students in order to make them work ready. Then we come to the final fifth component. This is responsible decision making. That's the ability to make a thoughtful, ethical, and constructive choices about our personal and social behavior. That is extremely important, that we will make decisions that is in alignment with our values. So now let us have a look. You see, social emotional learning plays a vital role in helping both students and educators, as I mentioned, to develop their emotional regulation, which is crucial for building their emotional resilience. So this regulations teaches individuals how to recognize their emotions and understand the triggers and how to respond appropriately. So how are we going to develop that? Okay, what are the mechanisms? I promised you I'm going to talk about that. So there are two mechanisms. There is short-term coping mechanisms and there is long-term coping mechanisms. So let's start with the short-term coping mechanisms. I'm sure that lots of us heard about mindfulness and the breathing techniques. So social emotional learning often includes mindfulness exercises which help the students and the educators to remain present and calm during a stressful moment. This happens by focusing on our breathing or sensory experiences. So in order to reduce our stress. The second coping mechanism is journaling and self-reflection. I always encourage my students to keep a journal, to reflect on their experiences and take it as points of reference in order to have continuous improvement, in order to enhance and foster their self-awareness, and in order to develop resilience in the face of their daily stressors. So if we're going to look at the long-term coping mechanisms, there is goal setting and problem solving. So social emotional learning promotes resilience by teaching the students how to set realistic goals and break down larger challenges into manageable little steps. Okay? The other mechanism would be building support networks. We're not a one-man island here. We need the support of people around us. We need to encourage each other. We need to form strong social connections with our peers, our teachers, our family members. That will promote social bonds that act as protective factors against emotional stress also. So there are also techniques in order to implement the social emotional learning in educational settings. So let's look at some of those practical strategies to help us implement it. So the first thing is that we can have morning meetings and check-ins, starting the day with a brief group discussions about how students feel, and to set the tone of emotional openness. This encourages self-awareness and social connection. So these moments allow the students to articulate their emotions and they feel seen and heard, which is extremely important. Then the other thing also in mindfulness practices. So we can incorporate mindful exercises such as deep breathing, meditation, or guided imagery that can help students regulate their emotions and reduce stress. There is a lot of research that has been conducted in this area, and it found out that mindfulness-based social emotional learning programs reduce stress and improve emotional regulations in students. There is also peer mentoring and collaborative projects, which is great opportunity. There's, as I mentioned earlier, journaling and reflective writing. And there's also role-playing scenarios. I prepare a lot of activities in the classroom, of course, related to the course that I'm teaching, or the material, the subject matter, and provide the opportunity for the students to practice hypothetical social situations so that they can learn how to navigate real life and emotional challenges through these role-playing scenarios. And they do enjoy it very much. And I know that, of course, from their excitement, their collaboration, their engagement in the classroom, and of course, their feedback at the end. So there are also lots of programs and activities that has been practiced in this field. There is the ruler approach as an example, and that was developed by Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. That is a program that teaches students to recognize, understand, label, express, and regulate their emotions. There is another program that's called Mind Up curriculum, and it's designed to teach mindfulness and self-regulation skills that's helping students to focus and manage stress. And research has proven and shown that Mind Up improves emotional regulations and academic outcomes for students. There is also another program that's called Second Step, which is widely implemented and focuses on social emotional skills such as empathy, emotional management, and problem solving. Another program is Responsive Classroom, and this approach emphasizes on building positive community where academics and social emotional growth happens simultaneously. So now you could ask, how schools, educational schools, tertiary institutes, how can they have the policies that prioritize social emotional learning and mental health? There are different ways of doing it, and each school or educational institute should choose the best one for them. So the first one, an important one, is to embed the social emotional learning in their curriculum standards. They can also provide professional development for their teachers, which is crucially important, and then promote that as a whole school approach. In everybody would collaborate and work together on it. The other thing also, which is important, is that how can leadership support in promoting the social emotional learning initiatives? So leadership in these institutions, educational ones, should champion it at all levels, because that will help to give the message that they are supporting it. They will be also allocating resources for these programs, which helps it and gives it sustainability and survival. And also, after that, to measure and evaluate the impact of those programs. So, yes, we talked about the benefits of social emotional learning, which is well documented, but not every single thing is rosy. So we need to look also at the other side of the coin. We need to look at the challenges that the schools and the educators can face while implementing social emotional learning programs effectively. So I'm going to go through with few of those barriers and their possible solutions. Number one, and the first one that everybody complains about, everybody talks about, is lack of resources. So many of those organizations and schools, especially those in underfunded districts, they lack the financial and the material resources to adopt comprehensive social emotional learning programs. So they may be struggling to afford training for their educators. They may be struggling to purchase the required curricula, or to hire specialized staff such as counselors or social emotional coaches. So this lack of investment can slow the adoption of social emotional learning practices. What could be the solution? These organizations and schools should seek grants. They could also partner with community and other organizations in order to provide them with resources and materials online or to mitigate that gap. The other barrier is time constraint. We are living in an age and era that everybody is busy, everybody is putting several hats, everybody is giving tight schedules, and whether it's the students themselves, whether it's the academics, and that is impacting on the effective implementation of such a wonderful program. So the solution would be integrating social emotional learning into existing academic content. And the daily routines can address these time limitations. Another constraint can be resistant of new approaches. We all know that there is a lot of people who we don't know something, they are afraid of it. Some people would say if it's not bad, or if it's working, why change it? There are lots of mentalities like that. And this is the traditional way and traditional approaches. So there are ways how to overcome this resistance. So providing professional development, sharing evidence of how social emotional learning benefits is important for the academic performance, the behavior, and the emotional well-being, and how it can build support for both the students and the educators. So I'm just going to share with you a couple of examples here from New Zealand to demonstrate the successful implementation of social emotional learning. So the first one is called the Pause, Breathe, Smile program. And this is a mindfulness program, and it is a prominent initiative that is aimed to improving students' mental health and well-being. And that program was developed by the Mental Health Foundation here in New Zealand. It teaches students mindfulness techniques to manage stress, anxiety, and emotions effectively. So this strategy of pause, breathe, and smile is delivered in schools through a structured curriculum that includes mindfulness practices, as I mentioned, and the teachers are trained to integrate these practices into their daily classroom routine. So the results of it is that research conducted on the program found out that students who participated in pause, breathe, smile showed significant improvements in their emotional regulations, in their focus, and in their self-awareness. And the schools reported lower level of anxiety and stress among students and a more positive school environment. Don't we all wish that? So the other example I want to share with you, it's called the Tikura Online School. And this is New Zealand's largest online school. It offers flexible learning options for students with social emotional learning that is incorporated into virtual learning programs. And this online platform ensures the students receive emotional support and develop resilience even in a remote learning environment. So this Tikura uses personalized learning plans that include social emotional learning components like emotional check-ins, goal setting, reflective learning activities. So results of it is that students at Tikura reported improved emotional resilience and academic engagement, particularly during challenging times like COVID-19 pandemic, when many students faced increased stress and isolation. we were all in lockdown. So, in conclusion, it's clear that promoting emotional resilience and well-being through social emotional learning is more crucial than ever. The challenges of the post-pandemic educational landscape have underscored the need for robust support systems that address students' emotional needs alongside their academic goals. So social emotional learning equips students and educators with essential skills for managing stress, navigating uncertainty, and thriving in a very challenging world that we're living in. So if we invest in social emotional learning, it's not just about enhancing academic performance, it's about nurturing resilience in individuals who can face life's challenges with confidence and empathy. The lessons learned and the successes achieved through social emotional learning programs demonstrate the profound impact that emotional and social support can have on educational outcomes and overall well-being. As we move forward, let us continue to prioritize social emotional learning, ensuring that all students have the tools they need to succeed both academically and personally. I would like to thank you for all your attention and engagement today. If you have any further questions, you need any additional resources, or wish to discuss social emotional learning implementation in more detail, please feel free to reach out. It has been a pleasure to be with you tonight. I wish you a wonderful and successful conference. God bless you all.